Hello and welcome to Lesson 6 of Web Design and Development for National 5 Computing Science. Last time we looked at these 6 HTML elements, but they looked kind of boring on their own. So today we're going to learn about CSS, which is all about style. How can we add style to the elements we've created? Today we're going to look at the text, the font family size, color alignment, as well as the background color of the text. If you remember, if we go back to our folder, we right click, choose open with Chrome. It looks rather boring, plain, and very uninteresting. So how can we add style? Well, I'm going to go back to my folder, right click, choose edit with Notepad++. Here is my HTML document. Now there are 3 main ways to add styles to your HTML document. You can do inline styles, styles in the head, or you can do an external style sheet. I'm going to show you inline styles first because they're the easiest and they're probably the least recommended way, but they are essential to know. So here's how you do it. Let's say we want to change the heading color, this heading here. What I do is I go to the opening tag of this heading, inside it, press a space, type style equals, double quotes, and then I type the thing that I want to change. So I type the property name, so let's say I want to change the color. Notice the spelling, it's American spelling, no U in color. Then a colon, and then I just type the name of the color, red in this example. Let's go back to my website, here it is, press refresh, F5. It's red. That was so easy and it's beautiful. So you might be wondering, what colors can we use? Well, we've got all the standard colors that you might be able to think of, even light colors. Oh, look at that, fantastic. And even some weird ones that you may never have heard of before. Dark golden rod. Look at that. That's a dark golden rod. So you might be thinking, well, what are the color names? Let's Google that. CSS colors. The top link is W3 Schools. I highly recommend this website for practice, revision, ideas, inspiration. Look at all the colors we can include. Alice blue, antique white, hot pink, beautiful stuff, right? You can type any of these names and they are safe to use in your websites. We'll take a look at other things like these hex numbers later, but for now, use W3 Schools. There are other things you can do, like go to CSS. You can see all the different styles you can apply in CSS and in HTML. But sticking to our document, so we've learned how to change the color. Let's change the size. So let's change the size of this H2. Let's say style equals, double quotes. And size isn't just size. We need to do font hyphen size. And there are different ways of changing the size of things in CSS, in websites. When it comes to text, the 3 main ways would be point, rem, or m. That will make no sense, but point is just like you would have in a word processor. Let's set this heading to 30 point. Let's save it, go to my website, 30 point, it's rather large. I mentioned rem and m. M is probably the best one first, so let's do 2m, and refresh. You can see that's slightly smaller than 30 point. If we do 2.5, this will be slightly bigger. There we go, nice. And rem will look identical to m, but there is a difference. So I refresh that, it made no difference, but if I set it to 2 rem, you'll see it does change it. So M's and rems. M is where the font size is the number of times the size of the parent element. So in this case, the parent element is the body. This body has a default font size. It's the same as this paragraph. So if I were to set it to 1 rem, that heading would be the same size as this paragraph. There we are, it's the same size as the paragraph. M's, so that's M's, they refer to the parent element. Rems refer to the root element, which is HTML. Root element, HTML. HTML has, well, the paragraph inherits the standard font size from HTML, so M's and rems are the same unless you change them. For example, I could change the font size of the HTML element and then these would all change relative to it because rems had changed. Now you might be thinking, oh, this is too much to learn, I agree. Let's just stick with point and forget about it. Point is not relative to anything else. It's like an absolute definite term. Definite size. You might be thinking, why stick to point? Why would you choose one over the other? Well, the reason I'm going to stick with point is because if I go to the specimen coursework, you'll see that the SQA have specified points in the past. Point. So I'm going to stick with point, but that's just a bit of extra information so you can experiment with font sizes. What else do we have? We have text align. So let's do style equals, double quotes, and text align. Text hyphen, align. There are 4 different alignments. We have center, Obviously it sticks to the middle. We have left, which is default. So as default, these are all aligned to the left. We've got right, whee, goes all the way to the right. See ya. And the final one is justify. This only really makes a difference if your paragraph or your heading, whatever it is, your text spans more than the width of the page. Let me just copy and paste some text into here. That's a bit better. So on the left, it's aligned. On the right, it's not aligned. It's sort of got this jagged edge. Well, if I set the... Let's just copy this. If I copy this style and apply it to this paragraph, you'll see that when I refresh, it becomes aligned on both sides. Whee! Isn't that cool? So it's a straight edge on both edges. That's justify. Now, I've added styles to all 4 of my elements, all of my headings and my paragraph. But I haven't added all of the styles yet. I still have to change the font family and the background color. So does that mean I have to delete one of these? Well, no, you can apply multiple styles. If you want to change the size and the color, you can use a semicolon to indicate that's the end of this style, and you can add a new one. So what did I just say? Font size, let's do 32 point. So it's bigger than the heading 2. Bloop. There we go, perfect. So this is a large heading with a color. So the other 2 styles that I haven't done yet, we have background color and font family. Font family is an interesting one. Let's change the font family of H2. So we do a semicolon and we'll do font hyphen family. Now there are different fonts that you can apply. Let's say I want to do Bibus, is it Neue? Bibus Neue. I just guessed that. I do remember this font, but I wasn't sure if it was going to work. So how does the computer know about this font? Well, my computer has this font installed, so that's why it's able to use this font. But if I were to publish this website, and you visited the website and your computer did not have Bibus Neue on it, then would it be able to display it? No, it wouldn't, because your computer doesn't have it installed. For example, there's a very popular font called Birth of a Hero. If I save this, my computer does not have it, so I can't display it. So you may be wondering, well, how can I choose a font family that will be guaranteed to work on every computer? Well, let's go back to CSS, W3 schools, go to CSS, let's go to fonts. And there are these things called generic font families. So if you are setting a font family, you can choose one of these 5 font families to guarantee that your viewers' website will look the same regardless of what type of computer they're using. So it's going to be consistent across all devices and browsers and so on. So let's choose serif. Serif is actually the default. So it's going to go back to how it was originally. There we are, back to default. It didn't change because it was when I tried Birth of a Hero. It was it fell back to the default anyway. Let's try another one. Sans dash serif. Is that how it's spelled? Yeah, sans dash serif. Oh, with a small s. Sans serif is this one without the tail. So serifs are these red bits here. They're the extra ticks and tails and little fancy bits. Sans serif is without those. So if I go back to my website, we're getting rid of those fancy bit. There we are, plain straight-edged text. We have other ones. Let's do cursive. This is my favorite because on my computer it's Comic Sans. Beautiful. And what are the other ones? We've got monospace. Yeah, this is a good one because it looks like code. Monospace. Looks a bit like code. There we are. It would look a lot better if it was in the paragraph tag. Let's add it to that. Copy, paste. See, it looks a bit like code. And then the final one is fantasy, which isn't very fantasy-like. It's a bit similar to Bibus Neue. Not very fantasy-like, but you get the idea. You can experiment with these. There are other sort of standard fonts you can include. You could include any of these. These are very commonly installed fonts on computer systems. So just try whatever you fancy. Now there's one last thing we need to add, and that's background color. Background color. So let's just delete the styles from this H6 and let's add a background color. Again, American spellings. And let's just add light gray. American spellings. Look at that. Background color spans the whole width of this website. The whole width of it. Now you might be wondering, why is that? Why is it not just the width of the text itself? This is getting into more like block elements versus inline elements, which I'm not going to go into detail today. And it's more of a higher technique, a higher knowledge thing as well. But you can add a background color to anything. So I could add a background color to the body. So let's add some style. Background hyphen color. Let's make it light red. Save. Looks like light red is not a color. There we go, that's better. Why is light red not a color? Is it just because it's pink? But there you go, you can see my whole body, my entire web page has a color, and this this heading here, heading 6, has a color. I could add a background color. Let's add it to the start here. Background hyphen color, and let's do light. That's better. You see the fun you can have when you just experiment with colors. Right, that is a very basic introduction to CSS using inline styles, adding the style in line with the HTML element. I hope you've enjoyed this one. You have a play around, experiment with all these styles, use W3 Schools to experiment with all these styles. You'll have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.